Hello, everybody. Welcome. And I hope you enjoy this episode. Today we talk with Andreas about art and magical inspiration in the art process. And it just kind of goes into different areas of magic and, thought forms, just like we do on this show. And it kind of takes you on a little bit of a journey. His artwork is going to be listed below. It is phenomenal, in my opinion. There's one section in the show where we discuss what makes great art different than okay art and what's that little spark that really ignites it. And I think his has it, at least to me, because this is all in the eye of the beholder, right? And I hope you enjoy it and visit his works and help support fellow community members. And, especially in these times and days of the world, I think his stuff is phenomenal. And, I think you guys will enjoy it as well. So check out the show notes for more information and enjoy this episode. Thank you.
All the nice woo-woo of the many paths up the mountain or the tree or whatever it is.
Exactly. I
Yes.
think, I don't know if it was a Buddhist proverb or what, but it's all streams lead to one source.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, exactly. So we'll go ahead and kick off the recording here. Go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of give us a little bit background on you, because I've seen your art. I've seen some of your postings on Reddit, and it just stuck out. So I reached out to you about talking about this for the Esoteric Scholar. So tell us a little bit about how you got inspired on this journey that you're on for your art.
Yeah, happy to. My name's Andres Zighelboim. I'm Venezuelan born Jewish artist. I've been painting professionally probably for the last 3 or 4 years, but I went to school to learn how to paint. I went to university after doing a little bit in high school, and I did an exchange program after university that taught me a lot more, where I apprenticed in Italy. Under pastisseurs. These are people that like copy paintings for wealthy clients that are trying to kind of, on the one hand, hide their original works and at the same time show it off so that it's safe from anybody trying to, steal it or mar it or what have you. So that was really where I got a lot of my technique from. And since then, I've just I've been painting my own figures since then, and it's been kind of an interesting journey, because side by side with kind of learning how to paint has been, all the fun stuff of coming out of school and going, what the fuck happened? What am I doing? What is it that I want? Jesus Christ! So it's been a very interesting journey, because my meditative and mystical practice kind of started concurrently when I went to Italy to do my apprenticeship. Where I was raised off of a lot of Harry Potter as a kid. We moved around a lot, and so a lot of fantasy fiction helped me kind of ground things down. And so I always was kind of looking for those different kinds of worlds. It's eventually got me towards like the teachings of Don Juan and things like that afterwards as I grew older. And I always was kind of like, while I was painting a bunch of different surrealist stuff and fantasy stuff, mostly to do with but kind of like searching for community and searching for love. So I was also kind of trying to find a doorway or a pathway to kind of a lot of visionary art. And I did find that while I was in Italy. I tried a couple of different schools. There was one online one that was called Quaria, which was, I think, one of the first of its kind, where it was kind of online, step-by-step, week-by-week kind of curriculum based magic schools. Lots of kind of astral projection exercises and creating dream memory palaces and things like that. And then a friend saw that I was doing this and suddenly turned me on to the writing of Grant Morrison through comic books. He's a huge comic book nerd. So
Yes.
He turned me onto that. And the letter section was one of the coolest parts, because then it showed me all these different books on shamanism, chaos magic, Austin Spare, that sort of thing. and I kind of practiced that bit by bit while I was overseas and away from the United States. So I finally had kind of space to practice all that, and eventually I came back to the States. I spent time in New York, and it was my first year of New York, where after about 1 year there, that I decided to go full tilt into the shamanism rather than the more meditative aspects and the ritual aspects, and go into something a little bit more, what's the word, kind of like in your vein. And I decided to do an ayahuasca experience, and that turned me on to even more and expanded the practice on top of it. Yeah, and since then it's been exposure to different systems, and at the same time expanding my art practice on top of it, because I always felt the two were really interconnected, in that I always wanted to depict another world, and I always wanted my practice to take me to another world, and then trying to figure out on top of it the underlying, why am I trying to escape reality aspect of both of those things.
That's actually really cool. I was trying to make a couple notes here so I can make sure I don't lose any details. I like the last part where you're trying to depict these other worlds while trying to somewhat find your place in this one. And then why are you trying to leave? Like, why are you trying to find that existence beyond yourself? I find a lot of people who journey down these paths in these spiritual realms and these different, pathways, a lot of them are seeking that escapism mentality more than the growth mentality. So I like that, because I feel like that represents a factor of us that we need to be cognizant of in our journeys.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with you. I've had a deep fascination with the different aspects of art, and we met through my posting on Reddit, but I kind of evolved into where I am now from that space, that weird like ground of like, why am I trying to leave, and to where I am now, which is art as a means to kind of pinpoint desire and then also bring it out into the real world, more sigil magic. And yeah, it was in so doing, it was a lot of investigation of like, why you have to go through that weird shadow of, why am I trying to dip out using art, and why was I attracted in particular to art forms that took me to like a world beyond or a world behind, and all that metaphorical stuff, which was really more ground for a lot of inner work. And it's, I don't know, I find it fascinating, the idea that the artist is a magician, and then art as a tool to do that work, and to investigate meditation and magic, to investigate those like karmas and those patterns of behavior, and then also as a tool to construct reality. And I feel like you have to go through the first in order to get to the second eventually.
Yes, it's almost like a divination time travel in a sense, because you have to, I do art too, but I am nothing like you. I will never be a famous artist, and no one will probably buy my actual paintings.
Here's to the both of us, man, honestly.
No, if you see mine, you'll be like, I understand what you mean. But
no, I don't believe it for a second, but go on, please.
I know what you're thinking, because I feel the same way. Like, there are times when I'm like, I have to pick up the brush and do something, because there is this blank canvas in my mind that says, I have a gift for you that you need to produce, but it will only be apparent when you start working it. And so you're casting out and manifesting something that you haven't seen, but you're trying to see in that astral realm, so to speak. And then when it's finished, you're like, it makes sense, but it makes sense in a hindsight perspective. So it's, I don't know, it's like a weird time travel technique too.
Absolutely. And it's also a lot of a lot of trust, which is the funny thing, because I'm talking about a lot of planning and a lot of intellectualizing and a lot of investigation and stuff, and a lot of investigation into behavioral patterns and what I call karmas, or have been taught to call karmas, and using those to investigate actual desires, desires for partners, desires for living situations, desires for a job or a level of respect or renown and things like that. And I I don't know. It's fascinating, the idea of even with all this investigation and all this planning and all this trying to use the art as a tool, the art is its own living like being, right? You start off on a painting, for example, like a Francis Bacon might be one, where you start off with wanting to depict an elephant or a bird swooping down, and then suddenly you have this very strange picture of these meat slabs looking like angel wings behind a man that's hidden underneath an umbrella, and all this just very strange stuff that kind of pours out of you. I'm not sure if you're familiar maybe with David Lynch and his book Catching the Big Fish.
I am not.
So it's an incredibly frustrating book and an incredibly frustrating audiobook, because David Lynch talks about multiple times over, he's always asked, right, this weird white dude, big hair, constantly coming out with these cult hits, Twin Peaks and all this films and all that stuff, and Eraserhead, and they're just like, where does this come from? Where's this coming from? How did you plan this out? And he continually goes, I don't. And so they're like, you don't? What do you mean? He's like, well, I meditate is what. Like, what do you do? And he always goes, oh, I do my meditation, his transcendental meditation. And people immediately draw their own conclusions, like, oh, the transcendental meditation is the key, and that's where his ideas come from. And throughout the book, he's just repeating over and over, and I say frustrating, because he's going, oh, I am not like going into a visionary state to get like an entire picture. I go into it to calm my mind down, and then afterwards I might have an idea, a zigzag floor, for example. Like, I need to find a place with a zigzag floor, and then I need to see what they have in the prop department afterwards, and then suddenly a scene comes together.
It's a dance.
Exactly, it's a dance with a living thing. It's a wild thing. I don't know if you've ever come to a point though where it starts wrestling with you. Have you ever had that happen with a piece of artwork?
Yeah, where basically it's like you just want to throw the brush and be done with it and walk away, but then you're like, I can't walk away. It's like you're on that edge of a breakthrough feeling. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes. I have a painting right now that I'm absolutely wrestling with, and it's funny because I had planned it. I plan all my paintings. You can't really see here. I don't know how good it'll be for me to move my screen around, but I have a vision board, which might sound a little funny and a little bit
there's nothing funny in this world. There's nothing funny. I take everything legit because it's not me, it's you. So if it works for you, that's what works, man.
So part of the this body of work that I'm on comes from my current like phase of spiritual practice, which again is this desire base, is this what do I want and how can I bring it into reality, and like really crystallizing what do I want. And the funniest thing is where I got this from, of course, is like everybody knows The Secret, right? Like that book, The Secret, and the very famous like DVD that would go around. It has like Pirates of the Caribbean, like kind of silly edits with like aged writing coming out, and everyone's weird ponytailed uncle just seems to be on it. But it keeps talking about this cornerstone. What I find is the cornerstone of the magical practice, and now the cornerstone of my art practice, which is like focus on what you want, like continue tuning into that. And and just tune into that. And you don't necessarily have to turn every other channel off or go about your way of like resolving all your issues as much. It's nice if you do, but just focus on what you want and get yourself into a place of getting that. And the vision board is crucial. What's really cool about it is that the vision board, when we talk about a vision board, we're just for anybody that doesn't know, we're talking about a big piece of, let's say, you could call it Pinterest in real life, where it's like a piece of corkboard with a couple images, however many you want, of the things that you want, ideal partner, ideal home, ideal job, ideal reputation, ideal family life, etc. Like all that's there. And that's what's led into these paintings. But even again, with all this planning, the current painting that I'm working on now, I've known how I was going to do it. It's a composition that is very much about art supplies and the spirits that live in the art supplies, like very cute, very Studio Ghibli, of like fairies and stuff going around it. And I spent about 2-3 weeks on an underdrawing where I was putting in all these references to the people that I enjoy, Leonora Carrington, Max Ernst, Salvador Dali, Hieronymus Bosch, like all the heavy hitters that I really love. And what happens is that I get it, each section of the painting costs, and now that I'm finally on the final inch of it and seeing that it's cost so much, it's taken me to a place where I've had to like erase all of these references and put in all of my own little creatures from previous paintings. And it's been very frustrating because I've been wondering why it hadn't been going so long, and then suddenly the painting started coming together when I put my own spin on things. And it's just very interesting that the way that it pushes and pulls that way. I don't know, maybe I'm not making too much sense, but it's something that I'm coming to over the past few days. It's very strange.
I think it's one of those things that makes sense, but when you've lived it, it makes more sense.
So it makes no sense saying
no. Like, I think people can conceptualize it. It's like the art, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like if we were to describe this piece of art that you've done to our viewers via the podcast, they would get the idea, they would draw the mental image of it. But if we said now switch to video, then they would be like, oh, I get the full picture now, right? So yes. For some of our people who will listen to this will get it and run with it and say, I understand you, I vibe with you. And others will be like, oh, I kind of get what you're saying, but I haven't lived
this. This man is rambling. That's Jesus, God. What is he talking about? Which is also fine. I
get it.
I don't know.
I get it because, I'll tell my better half that, like, she's like, do you ever, like, because when I start painting and stuff, she's like, do you ever just have a plan? Or I was like, I find it better to just let the brush vibe it out with the canvas. Like, I have a general feel of what I want it to be like, but 90% of the time, it's 100% different than what my initial impression of what 100%. I want is.
100%. And I had a very interesting discussion a few days ago with another friend who was, we were talking about this whole idea of like art and the things that you create kind of bringing things into your reality. And we were talking about it, and we were talking about the notion of very simple, like almost feng shui, this idea that when you have images in your home, in your bedroom, for example, in feng shui, the bedroom should be surrounded by images and objects that are their pairs, their symmetry, the twins, for example, like the idea of a couple in love. You should have like matching bedside tables, matching lamps, like in order to create harmony in your life, and also to either attract a pattern or to encourage the balance between partners. So that idea extends outwards, where whether you're with someone or not, and you let's say, my favorite example, let's say you're a single man or woman, and you're an artist, and you're painting you're complaining that your love life is absolutely in the toilet, and you're painting these pictures of so you're creating these pictures, and all these pictures are of lonely men or lonely women or what have you, and they're just these very sad paintings, almost melancholic and beautiful, of course, because super beautiful, but your love life is in the toilet. What a magician artist might say, or even a therapist might say, is why, instead of creating this universe of very like lost others, instead create scenes of couples, right? And create scenes of couples, or if what you're not looking for is not couples, create scenes of a harem, like of a Playboy lifestyle, like fun, and the idea that can change, that changes the environment, that changes what gets brought in, because you're kind of tuning yourself to the images around you. So I love that idea. And then there's the converse, which is like, okay, just like we were saying, when you're making art, it gets away from you. It's its own living creature. So what do you do about that then, when you're making something and out comes this terrible thing with thousands of teeth and like just a very abstract shape? What happens when you're Max Ernst and you paint Europe after the rain? Does that mean that it will like bring in horrible doom to your life? When you have trauma and you're creating something, just putting the trauma to canvas bring this nightmare ride to life? Like, is it bad? Is it bad for someone to have that around? These are just questions I'm saying out loud because I don't know the answers to, but I think the rule of thumb for me right now is, if it's an automatic drawing in whatever capacity, like how we're talking about, where it starts off as something and then comes off as something completely different, it's valid no matter what. But I feel like those are the safest to have around.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. It's almost a ritual, so to speak, when you start the process of art, and being that you're taking something internal and evoking it into an essence, a material form. So to kind of counterspin your thought there is, if you create this total demonic image, are you manifesting that into your consciousness and in the world? What if you're banishing it out of your consciousness into the art? Like, what if subconsciously that is what's hindering you, and now you are embodying it outside of yourself, away from you?
Right, and this idea that sometimes you'll hear about people meeting a fabulous horror director or writer or artist, and wow, they're so much nicer in real life, like that kind of thing is like, well, I do agree with that. I do think that there is there's a and remember, I'm not I don't know, I'm still experimenting with these things, but I do believe that there is a primal scream aspect to these ideas and to these paintings. I talked about Francis Bacon just now. Francis Bacon was just notoriously, just like always, just a super people person, very easy to talk to, had this way of flittering around like a bird, which not a lot of artists have that gift. And he was able to, enjoy the night and enjoy his friends and have a really, really good time. And I don't know if a lot of painters are these kinds of investigative or I guess like magician painters. It's just something that I'm trying to kind of get a grip on. I don't know. I'm still kind of investigating it myself, but I do find that what really is working, regardless of the painting negative or positive images, is that the painting the positive images and surrounding yourself with positive images, particularly in their home, does work, at least for me, and it's very powerful stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with you. Even on a subconscious level, when you're dealing with like magic, when you're dealing with this type of esoteric studies, or even life in general, whatever people want to throw at a category into it, whatever you focus your attention on, you start to vibrate at that level, either subconsciously or consciously. So if you have a lot of negative imagery around you at all times, I mean, I watch TV. I probably shouldn't, but the negativity on TV. There are some shows like I'm just like, I gotta turn this off. Like, it's killing my vibe, right? Because
Yep.
of the killing or whatever have you. If you're constantly absorbed in those things, and you walk down your hall and you have this macabre, artworks everywhere, it kind of plays on your subconscious a little bit. So you'll start to vibe with that more and you might manifest some things on that. And I agree with you. This is all experimental. Like there's no one thing that fits all, because there are some people out there that's their genre and they're happiest when they're around it, and they're like you said, the best people, and that's what they vibe with, and that's totally cool. But it's not necessarily one size fits all. You have to figure out what works for you. So like you're saying, put those images out there. What's the harm that can do? You're going to raise your vibration. You might get successul through it, or you might feel like, okay, this is a little bit outside my comfort, right?
Yes. That's the question. Is right. It's this, does the creation of the thing, is it harmful? I don't think so. I don't think I think it is incredibly therapeutic to create in general. I think it's a mimicry of of Godhead, just like an orgasm is. Like it's a good thing no matter what. But I do think the surrounding of yourself with images is an incredibly potent thing that strikes both ways, right? Just like we're talking about, the surrounding yourself with positive imagery fucking helps, and surrounding yourself with negativity fucks with you. And yeah, that is definitely a thing. I think that there is a lot of opera in the world, and I think that what you consume definitely messes with you. And at the same time, I love horror, I love fantasy, I love all that stuff. So it is a difficult tightrope. I think where I've found that it stops fucking with you is if it's used as a distraction, and a distraction only, like a conscious distraction, where as a brief aside, my magical practice really is consistent of a little bit of Kabbalah, a little bit of Golden Dawn, a little bit of chaos magic and shamanism thrown in. But that super fun bisque of at some point in the day, I'll, depending on the time when I meditate, what I'll do is I'll do an LBRP, a lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, if it's in the afternoon, and then a meditation and prayer, which I find the prayer is really just to kind of like fine tune the want, the desire. And during the daytime, it will be probably more along the lines of invoking ritual of the pentagram, middle pillar, the meditation and prayer, then a banishing ritual afterwards. And then that would be my magic for the day, right? And then an ideal day, what I would do is I would do whatever needs to be done in the world, small, subtle pushes, into reality, and then leave it alone and get distracted with literally anything else, aside from what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. That idea behind chaos magic, right? Using sigils, and then just like believing that it works, right? It's the belief that it works. Just leave it the fuck alone. Like, go do something else is usually what's said. So I do find that that's it's okay to intake that, but if that's all you're intaking, and you aren't even trying to do these subtle pushes into reality, I don't know if the magic does as much as it could, I guess.
No, I don't think it does either. I agree with you. So your several points there I think I really resonate with is, we'll start from the beginning there. It's like everything is a distraction. Like people these days, they're trying that escapism. This goes back to the original thing we kind of brought up at the beginning there is the escapism aspect of art in some essences, in life in general, where we find these shows, we find these books, we find these movies that bring us out of our own reality of manifestation into something that we enjoy. Because we've kind of, in my opinion, we've kind of lost the idea of how we manifest things ourselves, or we have a more nihilistic view of the world where we don't have confidence in our ability to create what we want or know what we want, so we get distracted to take us away from that pain, instead of doing what you're doing, which is the small baby steps of ritual. We've lost ritual in this world, and it used to be, everything from cooking a meal to eating the meal was some type of form of ritual, whether you pray before it, whether you bless the food, or whether eat as a family, up to the daily commute is almost a ritual sometimes, but now it's just meaningless, so to speak.
I think it's less, in my personal opinion, I think it's less that we've lost ritual. The ritual exists. The consciousness of the ritual changes, and then also the intuitive. There's an intuitive aspect to ritual as well, which my lovely girlfriend is asleep in the next room. Is yeah, my girlfriend from Canada. So she taught me to be a lot more intuitive with the process, and not be so intensive, because ritual itself can be too much order built on top of itself can be exhausting and very easily falls down, in my opinion, at least in my experience. But I do think that we live in a version of reality at the moment where it is very difficult sometimes to escape your instant dopamine hit and your instant cortisol hit, and it's just as difficult because it's coming from a source where their contrast is you get all your information and all your tools on your phone in your pocket, and it is at once incredibly useful. Same with your laptop, like it's incredibly useful. You can do so much with it and in so little time. And at the same time, here's the dopamine hit. Like here's that cortisol hit. Here's freaking out about politics. Here's reading comic books over here. Here's going on Instagram on the other end of the spectrum. And then there's just you in the middle that's left to kind of sift through and figure out where the time goes for that. And so it is a little bit difficult to like not just fit in a magical practice, but also organize your life in general, because the onus ends up being on you.
Okay, I can see that, and I can understand that. Yeah, that makes sense. Because in the daily grind, I can see the ritual still being there, but you feeling it, or you're saying more intuitive, so you kind of know it's there. You should be focused on it, or at least have your attention subconsciously knowing that you're going through these things. But to actually break away the time to set, ritual space aside, by the time people get to it, it's okay. So by the time people get to it, their dopamine's done. Their brain power's done. What is it? Cortisol? You only have cortisol so much in a day?
Well, your cortisol is right. Your fight or flight gets engaged almost immediately from different things. But one thing that I did learn, and I've learned it outside of magical books and magical study and the different programs, I've also learned it through a couple of great books, because I'm assuming artists are going to be watching, listening. So if you don't have the following book, I'd highly recommend it. It's fabulous. It's called How to Be an Artist by the Times art critic Jerry Saltz. And one of the things that he writes, I found very poignant and really meaningful. All of the book is that way. But the biggest thing was there's something about the first 2 hours after you wake up that is so you're almost like a newborn baby. Like, sure, there might be stresses in the day, but you're kind of clean. You're kind of like free of all of the bullshit that you accrued over the day before. It's a fresh day. And then after those 2 hours pass, like those 2 hours are really great. They're really key. Like whether it's for your meditative practice or especially for your art practice. Like the way he puts it is that the demons don't have time to get in. You know what I mean? Like the horrible voice of like, this is derivative, or your skill level is not X, or look what happened here. What is the point of this? You're not going to see an immediate reward from this. Why are you even engaging?
You're 2 hours into the day. What have you done? Yeah.
They come in. It comes in after midday. It's just like, oh, okay, shit. It's you've been awake for 2 hours. Like, remember every embarrassing moment you ever had, or like, you know what I mean? It's the dark night of the soul starts 2 hours in. It's a silly thing, but it's very powerful, because then it puts you in a place where you can really get into a zone if you go immediately in the morning. And this doesn't mean like, all power to the people that get up at dawn. The yogis say don't ignore the dawn meditation, right? But this means fuck it. You wake up at 10. fuck it, you got an off day or it's a weekend and you wake up at 12, like same rules apply. Just you get up and you go and you either, go paint, go write, go draw, go make some music, go compose, go practice, go meditate. Like, you're in the clear. Your day will be better. And it's a very weird small thing that really is real in this way.
Yes, I can resonate with that. I try, I have to be usually up early for other things, but I try to always get up earlier than necessary so I don't get interrupted by the family's routines. So I can
Word.
have that time to myself. I literally have a routine where I get up, I have my caffeine, I have a small breakfast, I listen to some podcast, and then I sit down, and whatever fancy I have at that moment, whether it's to write something, whether it's to edit some videos, whether it's to work on some programming that I'm working on for a website, whatever I fancy, just doing what I feel right doing is what I do during that time. And yeah, it just kicks the day off much better.
Hell yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. And yeah, I really just can't recommend that book more highly. I don't know. There's that book is really great. I don't know if this is where I like plug all the little things that are like I guess actionable while we continue to have our conversation. But
it's whatever takes us anywhere, man. It's an open road.
Sweet. So, Brad, I can't tell anybody listening to this to pick up the money they can, go to Cusco, Peru, and go to ayahuasca, as much as I want to recommend it to everyone. But I can give you something actionable to do, which is there are a few places where I do think that your money and your efforts are well spent. And my favorite happens to be a website called Magick.me, which I am not subscribed to right now. But Jason Louv is, love him or hate him, I really do love the way that he's deconstructed a lot of the Western esotericism and a lot of the meditative practice. And I actually got a lot of my practice rebuilt thanks to the way that he broke down a lot of the different techniques and their histories. So Jason Louv's great, and his podcast is great. And it's like, if you have $50, like, take a month where you're just diving into the courses that he has available. He's insane. It's just incredible. Although I do find the phrase "art as a hammer" is one that I like to use, which I stole from his website. But I do find that course doesn't talk about what we're talking about quite so much, even here, which is kind of a shame. But otherwise, it's a great resource for starting meditative practice, on breaking down the basic Western esoteric kind of rituals, the banishing rituals, and kind of putting that in so that that element of ritual that we're talking about, which is just so simple, throwing a couple pentagrams in the air and chanting, or your variation of it right before meditation, also changes the game.
Yes, I can't state that enough. Is people, I think, get overwhelmed when they first get into this area. When they get in here and they see ceremonial magic, they see witchcraft, they see paganism, they see occult or Satanism, they see chaos magic, they see all these different things. And they're like, "What do I do?" You have Kabbalism, Kabbalah. You have different levels of Kabbalah, like different forms and traditions. And they're just like, I don't know where to begin. And then you start getting down a pathway, and everyone's like, you have to do it this way, A, B, C, or you.
Oh my God. And I had that too. Yes, yeah. I had my period of that. It was after I'd done I'd asked for a spiritual awakening in Peru with ayahuasca, and I got it in 3 parts. But immediately after, I asked my shaman, and it's very funny going to a distant land, going to Peru and being in the mountains and meeting your ayahuasquero, right? Your ayahuasca shaman, and he's dressed very much like how you would expect a shaman to look in a fucking comic book, and then he has an English accent, and you're just like, oh. And suddenly he's doing a pentagram ritual, and you're like, whoa, okay, so what's this all about? And immediately he's open to questions, and I got to ask him about it. I was like, I recognize this. It's something I've played with in the past. I don't really know, but I'm Jewish. It's definitely Kabbalistically rooted. What would you recommend? Because this is where I want to go and study. Because it's when it comes to these kinds of experiences, it's the kind of thing where better to have a path that you're on than not, even if it's just a vague notion, even if it's especially if it's just meditating every day. And he gave me this book, and it was called Light on the Path. And at first I was like, oh, great, because it was literally a reading. Each section of the book is this thick book, and it's like kind of read it yourself and answer these questions to guide your study, almost like a university semester would be outlined, right? Except it would be for 4 years worth of study. And this took me to, different folders on Mega, going to the library in New York City and like trying to get these like old books that nobody has, and that I definitely couldn't afford and still can't afford. And doing all that, and then eventually just getting exhausted because it didn't really take me anywhere. It's like, oh, here's the middle pillar, here's Israel Regardie on the middle pillar, here's all these books that are digestible, and then suddenly hitting you with a 16th century manuscript by Cornelius Agrippa about elemental spirits, and you're just like, I can't fucking handle the density of this. It's too much.
How does this fit in? Just tell me.
What am I supposed to do with this? Are we talking about gnomes? What do gnomes do? Can I meet a gnome? Why are you speaking in Old English with ease and extra parts of sentences? I don't get it. And then
I just left a chapter about, it being a phantasm or like a subconscious or conscious existence. So is the gnome real, or is it in my mind, or is it
exactly
real in my mind? Does
it matter? Are any of the questions I'm asking actually relevant to my experience? Am I intellectualizing it too much, etc.? And then it's nice to have a Jason Loop, and I know what is it? It's Mr. Eccles who has his own website now as well, teaching magic. This is the guy that was the Satanic Panic. He got put in jail for a long time and got out.
David,
I forget the man.
Not David. I know who you're talking about. Yeah, because he got not framed, but he got put in jail for murder, and then he discovered
super framed.
Oh, was it framed? Okay. I haven't read his book.
Wild. I have his book on audiobook, which is a mess. It was a mistake. He narrates it, but the book itself is really cool because it's the same thing. It's like, here's how to do a middle pillar, and here's my experiences with it, being in jail, basically a monk, getting tortured every day, and my only escape is magic. So while I can't recommend it because I haven't read it fully, and I do mean to get it, it's another outlet for people that are looking for it. I just saw it, so anyone that's looking, he has his own website and his own study program. But the one that I did was Jason Loop's, and Jason Loop's was fucking fabulous, man. Yeah. I mean, like, breaking it when he broke it down the most simply, he's like, really the most important thing is your meditative practice, and then if you want to just do a basic one, it's just the same one that I use. It's a banishing up top, meditation after, and if you want to go ham, invoking up top, a middle pillar if you got him, smoke if you got him, and then meditation, and then a banishing on the bottom, like, and then just let that take you where it'll take you. And then
meditation cannot be undersold. And I'll paraphrase here in a minute a little bit about what I believe meditation is. But if you guys out there are thinking, oh, you don't need meditation, I have literally been, not literally slapped, but I have been had a good talking to by some angels saying that I need to get my shit together and meditate more because they're tired of me messing around and not listening. So,
man, lucky you on your visions, because I just got like, I'm Jewish, so for me it's very much just like there's always a bit of neurotic, like, is this working? Is this happening? And yeah, for me it was just like, oh, when I started meditating for real was where results come through, and dreams, also your fucking dreams change, which more results come through. So it's a whole situation there.
Yeah, because I was actually trying to work. I was doing some workings, and I've been working with the planetary energies, the planetary spirits, and without getting into the hierarchy. So you have your archangels that govern over most of the planetary spirits, and basically Raphael, because I have a real tight connection with Raphael. And Yeah, he basically, I was working with some of the planetary spirits, and he's just like, bro, like, he didn't say this, I'm paraphrasing, but basically what it came down to is, you know the answer to this, you know we've been telling you to meditate more, we're not going to talk about this anymore, bye. I'm like, huh, well, okay, guess I need to start meditating.
Word. Hey, damn. I envy you. That's awesome to just get bitch slapped by an angel a little bit verbally. I mean, it sounds fucking great. Yeah, I don't know. It really is the key. Is I think the meditation, just in terms of the mood, and again, I talk solely on the basis of because I'm still exploring the visionary stuff, but not quite so much as the reality change, the magic stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
The mysticism is inherent to the experience for me, but the magic is the far more interesting and, you know, like childlike wonder where I'm at in my area. But it's this idea that, right, you want to manifest something in the world, right? We talked earlier about you know, the images that are around you and the things that you consume, but I do think that the meditation is key in order to get you into that, not just to be able to focus more on those things, but also just like, yeah, that like what, 10, 20, 30, an hour a day when you get to it, like really puts you in a place where you can actually focus on those things, and then afterwards move on with your day, hopefully.
Exactly. And I want to just paraphrase that, because that scares people off. You don't have to do that right off the bat, and you won't do that right off the bat. I'm not at that level. If I can do 10 minutes, I felt like I did a freaking marathon. Like,
Yep.
I'm excited, you know? So don't think that you have to sit there for 30 minutes to an hour. Literally, if you do 2 minutes, pat yourself on the back, move about your day. Tomorrow, do
Hell
2
yeah.
minutes or 3 minutes, pat yourself on the back, go about your day.
Yep.
If
you are not Aleister Crowley. You are not a sadist or a masochist, unless you are, in which case, I mean, roll. Like,
more power to
please,
you.
by all means. Yes, but some people get mistaken by that, and they get put off. They get so put off. I definitely did. I definitely tried to go for longer when I started out, and eventually I broke down, because it's the foundations of the tower is like, if they're and those foundations start fucking small. Like, you're not going to be able to run before you can crawl. And yes, if you try, the tower falls down. Yep. So it's a whole thing. I had to retrain myself, because I had been meditating and then I dropped it, and then which will happen, and that's okay too. And then when I pick back up again, I had to pick back up from fucking zero, man. I had to go from 5 minutes, and that was a whole situation, and then build it back up. That's happened to me a couple times now.
Yeah, this ties into what we're saying too about being overwhelmed, because people, I think, often confuse like your yogi practices or your Eastern meditation practices with, you know, all meditation, where you have to sit in a certain posture, like lotus pose or something like that. And it's like, no. There's like many different ways to meditate. You can, you can do walking meditation, which I think some of the Buddhists use, where you just focus on your steps and you focus on your hand motions, and you just do that. You can do, you know, your sitting meditation. You can meditate in your car at lunch for 5 minutes. You can lay on the bed and meditate, as long as you don't fall asleep. You know, there's a lot of different ways, and even headspace. Like, headspace is going to help you. And you think, well, how can I be meditating, working with Magick, if I have somebody in my ear narrating what I'm, you know, doing, like breathe in, breathe out? It's like, because meditation's not about, you know, the action. Meditation's about the liminal state in between everything. So when you're meditating and you meditate for 5 minutes, listening to somebody in headspace say breathe in and breathe out, there's a minute in, you're not listening to them anymore. You're in that liminal state. You're in between, and that's where you want to be.
Well, it's very funny, because the Western traditions, the Western esoteric traditions, especially now, consider they're a mishmash. They most of what we got comes from a bunch of spiritual revivals and spiritualist revivals that came out late 1800s, early 1900s, the Theosophists and things like that, moving ideas from the East into the West, and then picking that up and mishmashing it with a bunch of stuff, which you know, any path works, as long as you're doing it with some degree of consistency. But the Western esoteric path is a very specific one, where it's a mix of Kabbalah in as much Kabbalah, yoga, even Greek mystery schools, Egyptian mystery schools, all sorts of things, Hermeticism, which is both of those, I guess, and a whole bunch of stuff. But it's funny because while this was taken, it was especially the Eastern mystical stuff, things like yoga and the yogic and meditative practices, which became very popular. They were interpreted by specific people for the Western esoteric practice. The biggest one being Aleister Crowley, and then the other one, I think, in terms of magical mystical schools, and in the modern day, Osman Spare, which Osman Spare is more key to what I'm talking about in terms of like sigil magic and art as magic. But both of them use this idea of exhausting the mind or exhausting the body mind, and I forget what the term is, ecstasis, but it's putting yourself to a point where you're exhausted. And Aleister Crowley, being a masochist that he was, said, sit in one fucking place with one fucking position and then just stay there, and if it hurts, good. And I think that the reason that yoga exists is it's also exercise. It's meant to make you tired. So this makes getting into meditation that much easier, is when you are physically tired. And Osman Spare would do loony versions of yoga where he was like, just kind of standing on his hands and like just putting himself into weird positions and then getting himself physically exhausted so that he could enter into different realms of trance and things like that. I believe the Fourth Way School does like whirling, which is like Sufi things, and dance. So I think there is a component of that. So that being a component, I do think that having your body healthy is as much a part of mystical practice and magical practice as anything else. Is making sure that you feel good and that you can be healthily physically exhausted rather than just mentally exhausted.
Yeah, yes, I can agree with that as well. And that comes back to finding what works for you at the moment. Because over your course of your magical career, anyone out there listening, you're going to test them all out. You're going to test everything out. You'll get to it eventually.
Yes.
And, yeah.
Go back to my time in Peru. It was suggested by the shaman, who, again, very upfront, like Western magical practitioner, using things like and mishmashing stuff. So I'd even say a chaos magician to some extent, said, hey, after you're done with this and you see whatever it is that you see and experience whatever it is that you experience, valid or invalid, you will have something happen. And what I recommend to you, now that the generator and the lights have been turned on in your house, is that you use that mystical magical practice so that you can clean your house and turn the lights on and off as you deem fit, now that you kind of see a little bit more. So what he said was, hey, like, there are many paths. Some are hot. And I believe what he meant by this was they are a little bit more dramatic, more intensive, and some are cool, which are a little bit more kind of meditative and a little bit less intensive, both of which are valid. But he said the thing that you should probably look at is try to take whatever spiritual tradition that you came into when you were young, usually something that you were born into, and otherwise, if you weren't, then you can find something. But I'm pretty sure most of us have been born into one tradition or another by our parents, or by anybody that we were raised by, and try to pick a system that works really well. And for me, being Jewish, it was very easy to extend myself into Kabbalah and Western esotericism. That might not be the same for someone listening who is Hindu, or maybe they're Muslim. Like, it might be a different thing. But all these religions have their that the religion is the exoteric part, and they have usually a branch which is part of the esoteric study, which will take you will always take you somewhere. It's the accessibility for these things I'm not too sure about, since I'm not well versed in them, but there are paths, and what I was told to me was that you will find less resistance by working with the programming that's already there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you. I was a Catholic Christian type foundation. And for the most formative years of my life, I kind of played a Crowley almost, where I kind of rejected that, like, what kind of stuff is this? And long story short, it came from some of my teachers expressing a stern commitment that people I knew were going to hell for certain actions, and I'm just like, what? Why? Like, this is kind of BS. So screw your religion, kind of rebellious thing, right? and then I came back around and touched it, and then I started forming my own analysis after digging into all the different types of religion. I went through a Wiccan and witchcraft phase. I went through a pagan phase, and then I came back to the Western ceremonial, Kabbalistic, foundation into that Judaism and everything. And that, because that's ultimately what I resonate with. Like, that's, like you're saying, like, it was easier for me to find that connection there than it was for me to destroy that connection and build up something with, say, paganism and like Norse gods or something. Because in the process of me trying to destroy that, for some reason, in the back of my head, I'm like, what if I'm wrong?
Like, oh yeah, it's my girlfriend. She's big on hypnosis therapy, and we talk about a lot. Is that when you're a kid, up until age 6, 7, you don't realize it. Even if you're this precocious kid, right? Your consciousness is on a level of hypnosis. You are just receptive to things. Like, the adults in your life they walk like gods. Like, you're walking with giants. Like, and so what they say, whether you doubt it or not, you're precocious, you're like trickster, whatever. Have fun. Hopefully, everyone listening's had a great childhood. But great or no, you're absorbing information, and so the religious information, the mystical information that gets absorbed. It can go in very deep, and it's not to say, like, I know plenty of Jewish people that make perfectly great Buddhists, or even they transfer over and convert to Christianity, things like that. But I do find for the mystical path that you are going to be, at least for me, I've been trying to take away patterns of behavior, right, and peel those back, and then choose which ones I like to do, and working with a programming that already works at least a little bit with the undercurrents of those patterns has helped me a lot. So
yeah, and you have to be susceptible to change as well. You have religious fanatics that this is the Bible, this is right, and anything outside this is not right, and you can't go into this with a mentality like that.
Oh, Jews, we have that too, because every religion has its share of fanatics.
Yes,
but we don't really have a hell per se, which is really funny. You think great. I think it's great now, but when I was a kid, I was in love with the mythology. I've always loved mythology. Like I said, Harry Potter had, and before Harry Potter, I was very into classical Greek mythology and ancient Egyptian mythology. I used to have those big old books with all the images of every mythology from around the world, like the major ones. And I was always very put down because Jewish folklore and Jewish mysticism is not only is it like really like sparse in terms of its stories. Like, sure, there's the Bible, and you got King Solomon, and you have Moses and those things, and you have like rabbis creating golems, little hints of the Kabbalistic tradition, but there's no real agreement on a punishment zone outside of folklore. And I always found that as a kid to be very entrancing. Why? I have no idea. Like, I loved the loved the idea of like the story of the fallen angels and things like that. For whatever reason, was a real fetish for me at the time. I still love paintings with angels and wings and things, but it was something that I really bemoaned for a very long time. But now that I'm older, I'm like, man, I'm glad that that's not part of my programming, because like, if I fuck up, like, the mistake's not that bad. You know what I mean? It's just I have to just live with my own neurosis as a Jew, as opposed to having a punishment zone and a boogeyman of some sort that really would strike fear into your heart.
Man, I cannot I cannot tell you probably the PTSD that was caused by the lectures of hell, and then you know the accusations that if you step out of bounds that you're going to hell, and then what's his face, I forget the artist name of his depictions of hell, very surreal. Oh, dang it.
Did they have there's a couple, but
Where
the one that
everything's getting eaten by these weird shapes and stuff like that.
damn, I think I know who you're talking about. And it's killing me. It's not Beksinski, is it? No,
No.
Beksinski.
He has some
It's
good
this
ones.
other guy. He's more modern. I think he's still alive, and I think I remember because he created a hell, and he has a
Yep.
book which is like XYZ. I don't remember his name. And it's like
Yeah.
hell.
Anyways, like the art was
Yes.
terrifying. It was terrifying, and I remember accidentally flipping through a book and seeing that, and being a young impressionable child, ready with the fear of hell. Seeing this, I'm like, "Oh God, I better be good." And then, so the PTSD was enormous.
That fucking sucks. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it does, because for the better half of my life, that is what I had to overcome with working through this stuff, and come to the realization that there that that exists in the collective unconscious, because humans manifested that through invention, right? So
Hmm.
that place is real, but it's real, and I'll go there if I project myself to go there, right? Otherwise,
Yeah.
whatever I believe my punishment is a manifestation of my own creating. So
Yes.
on my deathbed, if I were to die and feel that I needed to be punished, this goes into the Egyptian mythology as well, then my creation of hell would be the justful punishment of that through my own making, not this crazy ass acid trip.
Oh yeah, yeah. It becomes much more David. I'm sure it would be much more David Lynch than it would be Hieronymus Bosch. But
That's him.
uh, Hieronymus Bosch, you. Oh, poor you. Like I have a great
Yes.
book of that now, and I always laughed because again I didn't have that PTSD, so I saw it and like you have like a Garden of Earthly Delights and all that stuff, and he has suddenly like you'll be seeing these people get tortured in all these different ways, and
Yeah.
there'll just be this weird like trumpet faced demon on ice skates
Yeah.
where like you're just like what it's funny not having it because I don't get quite as scared.
Yeah, I interviewed a guy who made the Vlad the Tarot deck, and he was going to do the Hieronymus Bosch tarot next, and I'm like, I'm not going to
Oof.
interview for that one. I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
I
buying
get
that
it.
one.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
we've had some ideas. The one that I've always loved, I guess the only real equivalent in Jewish mythology would be Dybbuk's, where
Hmm.
a Dybbuk is the more I guess you would consider them the more cardinal sins, but in this case would be it's very Jewish, so it would be more like suicide and then following a false messiah, right? Which following of which there are many, like lists on lists for Jewish false messiahs, and like the punishment is you have to actually you're a spirit, you're disincarnate on earth, and it's not a fun time. It's like a nightmare version of it, and of reality, lacking in color. And not only are you fucked and disincarnate, but also you have these two angels. It's called angels of destruction, which does not go into the and this is all like apocryphal, this is all like
Hmm.
folklore. um, these two angels of destruction follow you around, and the only way to really escape them, these PTSD-inducing angels that are just trying to make you do shadow work, is by hopping from body to body. And of course, in the stories, the bodies of animals don't last long, but if you manage to get into a human one, you have an opportunity. And what is the opportunity? Rabbi comes through and he exorcises you and purifies your spirit inside of this other person, and you manage to move on to the next level of existence. I learned this because I was 13 years old doing a bar mitzvah, and I was upset that we didn't have any cool mythology. So my rabbi just like, I'm going to show you some cool shit, and that was what he showed me. I've
Awesome.
always liked the flavor of that for some reason. It's interesting. I don't know why I like it, but I do.
Yeah, I enjoy it too. I was actually just looking on my bookshelf. I have an older was hold on. Uh hold on. Great Tales of Jewish Occult and Folklore book. It's about an inch, 2 inches thick, that I've kind of read through a little bit. You guys do have a lot of really good good
There's
stuff.
cool shit, man. There's cool shit in there. It's just not up and about because there's also disagreements within the various communities of what constitutes thing. You're just as likely to meet a Jewish person that believes in reincarnation, which I feel is much more Buddhist and Hindu in nature than you are to believe someone who believes in heaven and a sort of resurrection and the end of days. It's very interesting to be part of that community because there's no consensus. You're kind of left to figure shit out on your own. Most of the time, unless you're very orthodox, in which case it's a whole other shebang that I don't even know about. But then I guess coming back around, right, is this idea of like these stories and these mythologies to me are really great works of art, and like they were created, and like what are they really then? Are they like the voicings of a poet and an artist to kind of again do like a primal scream? And this, which is beside the point, because they, like you said, they exist. They are, what's the word? Egregores. They're like thought
Yes.
forms. They're there. They're visitable. You can hang out in those spaces through whichever means. So it's fascinating to me that these things exist. You know, like.
Do you feel that art, good art, like maybe this will make sense when I explain it fully here. So I have a theory that you can tell high quality art from okay art by the energy that's manifested by looking at it. And I feel like there's a transference between the artist and the painting or whatever art medium they're using, and it's imbued with that energy that is manifested through their creation. And I see it in yours, but that's kind of why I reached out for you. I'm like, this guy's got something. But
I'm immensely flattered. The truth is, as an artist, I don't know. I hope so. I know when I'm fucking struck by something, and I can tell you that because I'm a visual artist, I'm a painter. Like I really just work with my eye and my hands. It's funny that I could tell you there are certain ways that I'm struck by paintings, and then there's certain ways that I'm struck by music. Like music ends up hitting me like right in the chest sometimes. The hair on my arms stands up, you know, like I feel as though my aura is magnified like 10 times, and I'm just this walking flaming like being just by listening to the jam, you know. Like there are two things that have happened to me with art, because I understand where you're coming from, because I do agree there's some times where there's been a few times, not as much lately, which is disappointing, but there have been a few times where I just go, oh my God, when I'm in front of a piece or see a piece in a book or see something a little less so on the internet, but in a gallery especially, like the physicality of the last time this happened was with a Neo Rausch piece. Yeah, I can tell you that sober, what'll usually happen is I usually go to a contemporary museum. When I was in New York, I'd go to much more. I'm in Miami now, but when I was in New York, I would see something by contemporary, and I would just look at it, and if it was really good, I would get furious. I'd get so mad, and I would try to rush home as fast as I could, and people would be able to tell if I thought a piece was good or not when I was with them, when I would just get very quiet and just be like, I need to go home. But I have had experiences, particularly at the Met on acid, so I don't know if that's cheating, but I went to the Met on acid, and I had a really beautiful and vivid experience looking at old Dutch master landscapes, and to the point where it was like I was seeing three paintings, and they were all speaking to me on almost a higher mathematical frequency, where it felt like a real spiritual thing. Same with the Egyptian stuff. The temple didn't speak to me as much as the pocket deities, you know, your little small deities that people would pray to, that I guess we'd equate them to gnomes or house spirits. And I felt a real like love and deliciousness coming from them when I did go near them. But again, this was an experience on acid, so I can't I don't know how much that speaks to anything. Really.
In your defense, some of those types of paintings you can get that response without acid. So being that
Hmm.
you're on acid, it must have been even more exponential. That's yeah.
It's a wild thing. I don't. It's weird. It's weird being. I wonder if there's a difference in being an artist and being a viewer, viewing art. You know, like and maybe being more sensitive. Because I would love to feel that more often. I find that it's things come through me, and most of the time it's not conscious, and I wish it was. I do find myself more in tune with those forces while meditating, I think, but that might just vary from person to person, experience from experience.
Yeah, I'd agree with you though. I love the feeling of good art. It's like it's like you it's like waking up on a great day where you know you're gonna have a day off, you have awesome plans later, but you have time to relax, and you just got a fresh shower, and you're just like, damn, I feel good. Like just looking at fresh
Hmm.
art, like just art that's just great, just makes you feel new, refreshed,
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
that's the feeling I'm saying. Like you know when there's a good piece by that feeling of emotion it gives you. Not saying that the other ones are bad. It's just I guess that they resonate with that individual. Let's maybe
Yeah,
we can go
yeah.
that way.
Sometimes they just fucking spank you on the ass, and you're just like, oh, here you are, like, whoa.
Yeah,
And my first response would be that happens to me in a museum because it's like going to a temple. Like usually I'll go to a museum and I bring a sketchbook with me and then just stay there and then just copy down. And that would be my way. And it's probably the clearest that I'll ever be is when I'm in those moments in the museum, copying down a photograph or a painting and then just sitting there and just working is always, to me, the most spiritual, but much more in its like silence, like it's real silence that is even hard to reach for me meditating. So,
it's like I know the feeling, and it's like the world, the universe is in balance and harmony. Like it's like you're
hmm.
floating in absolute tranquility and balance. If that makes sense.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely, and it's so different, I think, from a comic book or a TV show or music as well. It's a different resonance, and I don't know. It's you give me a lot to think about actually. Like I'm just like it's funny. Like I don't get a chance to think about this on purpose very often unless I'm in the moment. So it's nice to kind of look back and like oh yes, I remember all of these feelings that I forgot since I've been in lockdown for a year.
Yeah, this is what I've been trying to do with this channel is just reach out to people because everyone's interviewed Jason Louv, Aaron Leach, Jason Miller, all these people,
Hmm.
the names. Everyone's talked to them and everyone's got their opinion. But what about the guys and gals and those who out in the field? The ones who are actively working and bringing these pathways to the next level for the next generation beyond those people. What are they feeling? What are they saying? How are they acting? And that's
I'm one of these.
yeah, I mean you
You
are.
are flattering me, but
Well, I mean you are, right? Because you've made this manifestation out into the world through your artwork, and now here we are talking. So like
mhm.
I don't know if this was your intention or what, but this is a result of probably both of our workings in
True,
some
true,
level.
true. And it's a fabulous conversation. Although I'll be honest, I would love to interview Jason, and I'd love to ask him a little bit more about his writing, actually, and take a second because the man's written a lot, and yeah,
I need to
it's
get
like damn.
His new Enochian book. I need to get that.
Oof. I've been meaning to, and Lon Milo Duquette has also a good Enochian book. Although I'll be real, I'm trying to lay off of it until I have a little bit more time under my belt meditating. For whatever reason, my inner voice is just like not ready, but
Yeah,
you'll get there.
yes, I agree with you. I'm not saying that you couldn't handle or nothing, but it is something that requires focus. Like myself, I've dabbled in it and it was like, okay, I got to stop because I don't have the dedication right now that this deserves, you know. And
Is it like big workings? Are we talking about here? Like we're talking like intensive stuff for Enochian? I know that the charts in and of themselves are very
it's
imposing.
complex and it requires study. It requires um, preparation more on your part than any physical items, right? You'll have to make your table of practice. You'll have to make your um, the the tablet of fires and man, this slipping my mind now. All the basically all the different tablets, the Enochian tablets for the fire, earth, air,
Right.
and all that go into the temple, and then you'll have to make your wax sigils and all of that. You'd want to do it by the book, and so
But the worst part is like right now I'm getting tingles, and I'm like, that sounds so fucking cool.
it does, and it's something I want to do too. And because making that stuff is something I truly enjoy. Like if you go to my channel and look through it, like I have some woodworking stuff that I do for this, and I make like these
Oh
awesome.
damn, that's so nice.
Yeah, so I mean, like that is, and I got some cool stuff coming. I can't announce yet, but I got some cool. Anyways, off topic. But it requires a lot of attention and study because when me and another gentleman did this once, we did a couple of the calls and we didn't have everything fully planned, and some things went awry, nothing life changing, but you noticed it was an effect from the ritual and not being prepared and things like that. And some of the visions I got were half-assed because I wasn't fully in it.
Right, I see.
And I want to do it too, but right now I'm focusing on the planetary magic aspects, and that is what's really vibing me. And I'm working on several things with that, and they're clicking and they're working. So that's where my focus is.
I think for me, it's something where same, like I have this like great desire to do it, and at the same time, there's the tingle of anticipation, right? It's like, ooh, like I want to get into it. Like I want to get into an art cult. There was someone doing the alchemical wedding, right? The alchemical wedding of what is it, Christian Rosencreutz, and so it's just using that as a stand-in for your soul. You're purifying the substances, right? And as you do so, you purify yourself and you change yourself, which is so fucking cool. Even just talking about it, but even then, I know myself, and it's one of those things where like I still feel like I need a couple more years of just grounded, simple practice, simple ritual before I can dive straight into those things. Because again, I do not want to burn myself out and then have to start the practice over again from scratch.
Yeah.
Because that sucks, having already had it happen even with simple things. So
yeah, because I started 2005 is when I started kind of getting into this more serious. And then to 2009, 2010, that's probably when my first serious block was. And then I started wrestling with the dark night of the soul and the shadow self and everything. And looking back,
the abyss.
It was. Yeah.
I started the chapel perilous, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. And so basically I dropped everything. I just dropped everything and was like, I don't know anything right now. Like, I don't know if this is even real. I don't know what I'm doing. Started the childhood fear of hell started coming back. I'm just like, I don't know.
Oh no.
Like, I'm just like, I'm dropping it. I'm done. So 3 or 4 years went by where I didn't really have a path or belief, and picking it up again, I'm like, damn, this is not like riding a bike. I'm going to have to start over and get myself back in on this. So I know what you mean.
Yeah, that's why again I try to keep it as simple as possible. That's why I like this the art and practice, the more intuitive practice, keeping it as easy as possible while maintaining some aspects of ritual seems to be the way that works for me. Where it might work differently for other people, but yeah, I have found that yeah, man, you drop meditation for like a couple days, a couple weeks, like. It's rougher and rougher every day that goes by, and you will have to build it back up. But that's okay because it'll benefit you no matter what. So
exactly,
I don't know. It's fascinating.
And for those listening out there, that's also true with spirit work. Spirits are a little bit more forgiving from that. But if you put them to the back burner for a couple weeks or a couple months and you don't talk to them or pray to them, they start to the energy starts to fade.
Yep. I've found that, and it's definitely what's cool about those things though is that most people talk about it up front. I did an interesting working. I think when it was 2 years. It was 2 years, 3 years ago. I did a working, and it was like an ad hoc working. I'd gotten my hands on a book by some guy named this dude named, I think it was Damon Brand, and it was a time where I was just starting to sell art, and I had made it to a kind of touchstone where I had sold all my originals. I had a little money in the bank, not a lot, but I had sold the originals that I had left, and I was like, oh, it's time to get into commissions and things. And so that is a terrible place to be as an artist, in my opinion, because commissions can dry you out. But I got into this mode of like, I need money. Where's the money? Where can I get the money? So I started looking into a lot of wealth magic, and what do you know? There's a book, and it's called Wealth Magic, and it's got a pretty little cover and all this stuff.
And so I ended up too.
I ended up getting his big book, which I think is called Wealth Magic, and I ended up doing the full working of it. And one of the things that it tells this guy Damon Brand in his books talk about is like, hey, it is a little more, it's chaotic. We're talking about like real angels and spirits, and like you're getting in this, like buckle in. You're going to be doing several day rituals, and you're going to be doing sets of them. So like buckle in and get ready and do them as much as you can, and do them in sequence every single day, and do them before midnight, etc., and all those things. And I did them, and what happened was fascinating, because he has smaller books where I did get to experiment the smaller books before, which were like the Magical Cash Book and some other things, where I did find that my adherence to, I think it's like 11 days of a ritual back to back would make the thing work out a lot more and a lot faster than not doing it. And when I didn't keep to it, it almost wouldn't work at all. So whether that was up here or in my head, in my heart, or just the thing, the rules of the spirit, there you are. But when I did this working, I was pretty anal about it, and it was very funny because it totally did work out in a completely different way. Where living in New York, kind of like at the edge of my rope, and doing all these weird rituals, and I was single and very unhappy, living in an apartment I couldn't afford, and I had started doing the working, and then suddenly I met my girlfriend, which started changing things. And then a year or so later, we found our way back to Miami. And what happened is like this apartment that had been over my head for so long, I was able to afford it through the year, and then suddenly everything got shaken up, and now I'm here in where I live now, which is a house that my girlfriend had inherited, and we are living in and rebuilding, and it has all this much more space, and on top of it, it's during COVID, and on top of it, it's just this peaceful place where I can stress out into my practice. So I ended up, at least for now on this stage, I feel like the working worked out in a chaotic way that I couldn't predict. So I don't know, it's all fast. Workings are fascinating to me, and also working with spirits, because I feel like we're working with beings that are not on the same level of space-time as us, at the very least, on a level of reality that what is it? I think Alan Moore puts it really well visually. It's more like seeing us. It's like a being that's seeing us, or beings that are seeing us, like drawings on paper. Like it's
the two Flatlanders.
Flatlanders, yes, and he has a great book called Jerusalem, which I think makes a great parallel between how I see like the Kabbalistic universe, the emanative universe, and kind of talking about that. And that's kind of how I see spirits now, where it's a lot of fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional, 6, 7, whatever dimensional beings that can see through all of time and can see through a bunch of possibilities.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. And it really is, because then you can start to break into some of the new discoveries about quantum teleportation and all this stuff, and the multiverse theory, and how that can, how that can tie into how magic works. But we could talk for hours on that, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I mean we could talk for hours. The only I have no trouble with I have trouble with quantum mechanics because I'm not as smart as I like to think of myself as being, but I can understand it from that Kabbalistic four worlds perspective of emanative, the Godhead emanating downwards through space time. But I find it fascinating. Quantum mechanics is a funny thing, and it's so broad, and it's used in just the term is used and is I find weaponized in mystical circles, particularly by more malevolent groups, more like cults, like more pseudoscience and mystical things, where that kind of blend of stuff can be used to control people. The mythology can be used to control people. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I can definitely understand where you're going with that one for sure. What some of your art pieces, they have some pretty good symbolism in there. I gotta pull it back up here. What is the one that I offered to buy? The one I wanted to buy. Where's that? Hold on. The Magician Studio. That's it.
Yes.
That thing just caught my eye so much because you literally have like your 4 elemental stations for like your LBRP and everything. It took me a minute to find them all, but I did.
Yes, unfortunately, I'm not that good of a photographer, so I'm sorry for the clarity.
No. The clarity on the picture was fine. It's just your artwork has so much detail that my eye is catching all these beautiful things, and I saw the triangle for like the water on the head. I'm like, oh, there's the distinguishing factor. Okay, where's the rest of the triangles? And then when I found the triangles, then I started to see the manifestations of the angelic.
Thank you.
So it was cool. But tell me about this piece. Let's talk about this piece a little bit. How did this get inspired? Obviously, probably through your meditation, but tell me.
Sure. So we were talking earlier about about vision boards and how that's been a big inspiration for all my paintings. My vision board is part of a kind of more intuitive kind of working. And I took a bunch of images of the things that I wanted, and one of those things was my artist studio. And I was like, what does that really look like? Because I've never really conceptualized it. And I've had artist studios before in school, and I've been part of residencies, and they never really lived up to the hype. And maybe the issue was, again, that I hadn't visualized it. I hadn't actualized it in a way, or seen it function in a way where I was like, damn, that's the one. And I looked around a bit, and I think it was, yes, it's you can't see it. I'm looking at the board now, but it was an illustration and etching of Delacroix Studio. It was a French English painter, 17th 18th century. You guys can hammer me on this if you want. I feel deep shame, but his studio has the same composition, and actually what I do for this body of work is I actually take the compositional elements from the original images, and then hey sweet girl, sorry, that's my dog. I take the compositional elements from the original photographic images that I pulled for this board, and then rearrange them in places where, for example, in another painting, I have a concept for my dream house. It's very modern, and I ended up putting it in these giant versions of these 3 women, this like triple goddess image coming out of the earth, and kind of playing with it like putty. So for this, it was, okay, I have this Delacroix studio, and over time, I have a bunch of other studios, a previous painting as well, called, I think it was it's the artist studio or something like that. There's another one in the same body of work, and I realized what I really wanted was a place filled with light. But I copied the studio almost to a T in its placement of it's different canvases, and it's different stretchers, and it's different easels, and kind of where the window was. And I knew that I wanted to do something along the lines of that emanative universe model. And I also wanted to work with the elemental archangels that I work with every day as a way of honoring them, and as also as a way of kind of crystallizing them for myself a bit. And so I knew immediately that I wanted to use an image of a couple making love as my Godhead image, which is at the very top.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wanted everything else to kind of triangle down in this one image, which is a 1-point perspective image. And so I very nakedly stole another image that's on my image board, which is my tantric sex section, my like relationship section. And I had this Alex Gray image of this couple making love and forming this kind of figure eight. And so I just did my own little version of it as the Godhead of this, like, you know, the orgasm force, the great uniter kind of force where everything kind of comes loose on. So I put that down, and past that point, I just used where the canvases were and just put in my own original drawings. I had worked early on in the year on a series of black and white drawings, and I had originally wanted to paint them. I still do, but I hadn't gone to it. It seemed like too big a project to undertake. So I was actually I've been using these paintings as an excuse to do them in miniature in a painting form to see what colors would go where. So all of the paintings that are in that the paintings within the paintings, all of those are my own original compositions that I placed in there. And then past that point, it was just a matter of how am I going to depict an angel, which, you know, is sometimes they're human, sometimes they're not, and how do I depict an elemental, right? How do I depict an elemental angel? How do I depict their attendants or their denizens, right? Your sylphs, your undines, salamanders, gnomes. How do I depict them so that you know that there's some level of hierarchy, and then how can I depict them altering matter so that they really feel like they're alive? And so I just kind of went from there, where, you know, the earth, I associate earth with coins, just like in the tarot. So earth is for me a very like wealth based one. Fire with creativity, swords with thought and action, and then water for like the emotion and the under and unconscious elements that run through everything, and that kind of runs through the whole painting.
I like how this is how I see the fire. I mean, if this was intended or not, you can correct me. But it's like the trash can is emitting the fire element, the flames, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's just that area and how I'm seeing it. But it kind of speaks to me though, because in a way, not necessarily that. In a way, it's like things past have fueled the present. Does that make sense?
Wow, that's fucking crazy. I love that. No, I love that. I didn't even think about that, actually.
That's the beauty of art, right?
It's an incredible thing, because I definitely I know the area that you're talking about, because for me it's Michael, right? So Michael, he's chilling and he's holding onto a paintbrush, and there's like this kind of like movable tray of art supplies, and then underneath him there is that like jar that the people they have the trash can, right?
Yeah.
And I just didn't even think about the association, and yet, like, yeah, totally, that hits me. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
And, you know, as you walk me through it too, right? So I've noticed all the detail in the eye. This is something I don't mean to sound like I'm over flattering anything, but this is something I could stare at in a gallery for hours, because you can see like the earth elemental, the earth spirit. You were talking about how it irradiates its processing and everything. One second. Yeah. So sorry about that. So
No.
the earth elemental, how it looks like it's seated in a chair, and then it's basically connected like mycelium all through the room because there's all these little plants growing in and out of the rivers and stuff, and it's connected, and then the rivers are interwoven with it as well. It's beautiful.
Hmm. Thank you. Yeah, that was I'm super flattered. Like, wow, yeah, that's exactly the intention. And I don't know. It's funny because like I'm trying to keep the imagery rolling as I develop it, and a lot of these are, remember, like, they're my ways of trying to bring things into the real. So the some of the selfishness behind that, behind you, I think it is, yeah, it's UDL over there. Like, and the coins is that I know that I'm also trying to use this to manifest the lifestyle that I want to lead. So like the coins are part of it, the money is a part
Mm-hmm.
of it, is there, and then also just the earthiness and the interconnectedness. I really did want that studio to become like this living, breathing thing, its own ecosystem. Like that was my whole thing. Like mycelia is a fascinating way to look at it, but yeah, the whole intention was to make it a living and breathing thing. One thing I did struggle with though was everyone. I don't know if you noticed. Everyone but Raphael has attendants, and I had a couple of sylph ideas kind of floating through that the original drawing, but they never really quite made it through. So it's one of the he's one of the few that doesn't have an visible attendance. No fairies, right? Or I think there
Yeah.
was a moment where I was doing Murakami rainbow smiling clouds, and I was like, no, it's too much. But I figured air being kind of ever present didn't really need as much in terms of its attendance, seeing it's all over the whole of it. But that was the only other one that was tough because the undines were easy. The gnomes are there. They're the little black, like kind of sprite looking things with the upside down triangles on their heads. They're interspersed throughout. The
Yep.
salamanders were difficult to find their place within within the landscape, so they kind of tend to curl around the artwork itself in a funny way. It was a real blast to do that piece, and it is exactly what you said. Like I wanted to create something that you could come back to it, you can look at it over and over again, and at the same time, it's not too illustrative, which is part of what I strive for. I strive to keep it as tight in places as possible while also being very painterly. I like having visible brush strokes, and I also like having the material that's underneath to be very visible so that you do not forget that you're looking at a painting.
Yeah, and I can definitely respect that. That's something that me, I'm a little bit OCD and a perfectionist, and I like to try to make everything smooth and nice and
Mm-hmm.
canvas lines bad, and I'm trying to work through that. It's like, no, that's what gives the art character. So I highly respect that because even the texture,
Ooh.
you can see on the ceiling, you have texture like it's old plaster ceiling, right? So at least
Mm-hmm.
that's what I see.
That's fabulous. I mean, it is a combination of a special paper ground that I use that kind of wrinkles, and it veins, and it throbs. I've always used it since I was in high school. Even it's a secret technique that my high school taught me, that a high school teacher taught me, that I never lost from her. And yeah, it's just those brushstrokes. I really wanted it to feel. I want you to look at every inch and be able to feel it be paint. You know,
Are we going to talk about the distillery back there in the back?
the distillery. you know, is it that also is a totally? It was part of the original composition, and I I didn't know what the hell it was. I assumed it was some sort of heating from
Well, that's
Delacroix time.
I'm sure it's a heater. I'm sure it's a heater, but you can definitely pull that into like the alchemical
Yes.
distillation process.
Yes, I think that I don't know if you can see it, but all of the elements flow in. Even air flows in. That is one point where I put Raphael's kind of influence there, but all of them kind of flow into the pot, into the mix there. And I try to use the appropriate alchemical symbol. I always get mixed up whether it's a circle or if it's a circle with all these, or the circle in it and all these lines shooting out like a black star. I always get mixed up, but as I made it, I was kind of fascinated by, like, you have like a godhead existing almost invisibly up top. Like you lose track of it because there's so much on the bottom of the couple making love. But there's also like, there's an exterior outside, this like blinding light that is like veiled. And on top of it, you have this weird engine, this alchemical, whatever that is. Like it leads outside the room, like somewhere else. So it's this kind of weird, unknowable things that exist within the composition as well that I am fascinated by, which always brings me in. And I'm just like, because it doesn't have much of an answer for me either way. But it's like, what's out there? Like, what does that look like? I don't know.
I think that's the magic of art. Like, you can find things that you, the artist, did not even know quite existed inside this manifestation. Even as we continue to talk, you talk about the energies, the elements being drawn into that furnace in the back there, and it popped. I saw it before. I didn't quite see it yet, but then when you mentioned it, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, wow, that adds a whole new dynamic to this.
Yep. The only thing I hope is that with what little I know, I'm not just like, tossing symbols into the pot. And then I found out later, after when I finally get to the real structural stuff, that like, oh, I fucked up. Like none of this is right. And is it not to be too silly, but like how can it be potentially harmful? And yet it's like a thought. It's
no, you did good. Like, if anything, you're going to find more in-depthness to this as you go. I think that's this goes back to what I'm saying earlier. There's a spark. There's a energy that irradiates from something that's high quality art. That's something that is etherically true. And I think this is a piece like that. And it's a piece that anybody. I'm going to have to link your page in the show notes here so people can go look at this, because
hell yeah,
it is something you can stare at for hours and still find more value to it. And as you go, as you evolve, as you learn, I think you're going to get more out of this.
Yeah, I hope so. I love having conversations like these, because this is so linked with what I'm trying to work with. Like, I just think what's gonna hopefully it surprises me. It doesn't horrify me later. But yeah, thank you very much.
Does the number 3 have something special meaning to you, or is it just a image or just a glyph in there by accident?
Where
by the door behind the earth.
It's so funny. I didn't see it, but number 3 is actually my favorite number.
Oh,
but it has
there you go.
It has though. I didn't intend for it to be there. Is there something I should know? I mean,
oh no! I don't know. I was just wondering. Like, I guess this is the tarot side of me popping out, because I'll just pick out things and be like, "What about this?" And
right. No, I do love number 3. I don't know why. Since I was a little kid, and now that I'm older, a little bit more occulted, and I do have a fetish for triple gods, triple goddesses. Big fan of Hecate. And
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you there. I was going to say, have you broke your name down through numerology?
I have not.
Try that once and see if it equates to 3.
Word.
Just curious. I mean, it may or may not. I mean, I'm not trying to make any vast predictions, but I'm just trying to direct you to maybe something to look at.
That would be super cool. Yeah. I don't know. Number 3, I do love triple goddesses, triple gods and triple goddesses. Even right, the Christian triad and goddesses like Hecate are Hecate's very important to me, and Hermes, like Mercury, Trismegistus kind of stuff is cool. I always try to clue that in, particularly Hecate stuff, because I had a very deep experience with Hecate and the moon during ayahuasca, where I ran out in a terrible panic, and there happened to be a full moon out outside of Hacienda, and like it she factored into a later trip that same week. It was a whole situation. So I try to include her in a whole bunch of stuff ever since then.
We're gonna have to do more shows because I would like to dig into the ayahuasca episode, like information, because I've been needing to do that. I actually just did a video with a guy I know talking about combo and ayahuasca, and people are performing retreats and stuff here in the United States, and he's been trying to get me to go and do combo with him.
We're talking about the frog, the frog venom, right?
Yep.
I did that as well. I literally did it as I'd known that I'd wanted to go to Peru and do ayahuasca, and I'd been researching it for like 2 or 3 years, and I'd always kind of chickened out. I always got very scared because of the obvious. Didn't want to vomit, didn't want to shit my pants, didn't want to have a complete and total breakdown. I was like, fuck. And eventually I just ended up doing it. But the combo was like my prep, and I was in the middle of Brooklyn, and I remember this, combo ceremony. Like, what the hell is this? I forget where I even found it on. And I was like, okay, cool. And I went, and it was me and 3 people, and the lady did the, for anybody that doesn't know, I don't know if there are many ways to get it administered, but it's a frog poison, like scraping.
Yeah.
And you get like a little burn, and then you get a little stick with the frog sap kind of pasted into the burn, so it goes into your bloodstream. And the way that I had it happen was I did purge, I did vomit, and what I did feel was like a strong anger came up, like not like a rage, but like an animal fury kind of came up for me. And I was like, because I was looking for more of the like tripping the light, fantastic, go into the other world kind of thing, and it was not that. It was the internal energies moving up and around. And I distinctly remember like hopping out of this like yoga studio, doing this frog energy thing, having my eyes red on the sides, and finally coming back sober and being like, the vomit part's not that bad, but I do feel like I've wasted my time just like standing on the outskirts of like Greenpoint, Brooklyn, just like, what did I do here? But in combination with the ayahuasca, I'm sure it's probably very powerful. It does seem to me like it probably would be.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what he's been describing, is it has biological effects for your body. It helps you become healthier. It helps you get like toxins and stuff out of your body because of the way the pancreas, I think it's pancreas, kind of like purges and squeezes like all the toxins and stuff into your stomach, and that's what you vomit up, right? And then it helps you open yourself up to dealing with those things more. If you want, you should listen to it sometime. We had a good conversation.
No, I'm gonna dig into your whole back catalog. I'm embarrassed at myself for not having done it ahead of time. But I absolutely will.
It's perfectly fine.
Yeah, that the whole idea. I don't know if we've talked about it. I don't know how much time we've got or anything, but like if I could say for anybody listening, it would be you, like, guys, get on your vitamins and get a decent diet going, because you'd be surprised how much what you're digesting and what you're just like pouring out, like trying to filter through your body, will affect your practice, your meditation.
Yes,
it's fucking wild. I have my girlfriend's a nutritional coach, so I learned a whole bunch, and it's been a ride. Yeah.
I've done that. Like, I used to have just a horrible diet, hamburgers, Snickers, you name it, right? Soda.
Snicker hamburgers.
Yeah, like it was just bad. And then the first step was convincing myself how bad it was, even though the sugar rush was delicious. And so I got off all that, and love it or hate it, keto kind of really changed my mind.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it changed me to the nutritious side of things, and I got very strict with keto, and oh my God, my life changed. Like, I lost 40 pounds. I felt like a new human being. Nothing on my body hurt, and it was just focused energy, not like caffeine or sugar energy. And
absolutely,
I've started to slip over the past year because of everything, and then after the holidays, I'm going to get strict again. But yeah,
you do you, man. I was never weight fluctuated for a while. I think I went to Italy weighing 190, 200 pounds, and came out of Italy weighing 155. So the span of like less than a year was a massive loss. So I came in, I came in that way. But when I met my girlfriend, she started really noticing that when I would eat certain things, that my mood would swing, and that I would be kind of grumpy later on, or feeling weird. And so she put me on to something that I already knew, which is that my family is already like gluten allergies and dairy allergies, but I was still eating the same thing. I fucking love me a cheeseburger. So like I would eat those things and like milk, and it would fuck me up. And also I wasn't taking like vitamins and supplements and stuff. And she just kind of put me on that, and it's changed everything.
Yep.
Absolutely everything. Can't stress enough how important it is to be healthy. How much it really boosts your practice, almost to the point where I just don't understand not doing it. But there you are.
Yep. No, 100% agree with you. I think a lot of your, not yours, but in general, the royal books on like the Eastern practices really outline the purpose of a healthy diet. And especially when you go into ritual, like, spicy foods are like a no-no, and salty foods are a no-no when you're about to go to do ritual because of the way they interact with the body, right?
Oh yeah. And I mean, you can, and not necessarily. I mean, some people love doing a milk and peppers diet. David Bowie did a milk and peppers diet. He just happened to mix it with cocaine, so it's not a great thing to do a yogic diet with coke and trying to practice ritual magic and summon shit or pretend to summon shit, because it'll fuck you up. You'll end up making a really amazing album and then forgetting you ever made it, and then having to kind of rest it off over the course of 10 years afterwards. Not a good time. Milk and peppers, man, Jesus.
I backstep because every body's body is different. So yeah, you find out what works for you, but for the most part, there's the general rule of thumbs.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. David Bowie, man. His latest album was just phenomenal.
Black Star is still one of my absolute favorite songs. It hasn't left. It's been 4 years since it was released and he passed away. But I still love it. I still love the symbolism of his video and just No Hold Barred album. Wild.
You could tell the man knew he was going, and he wanted to tie everything up in the end.
Yeah, it's crazy though. I don't know. I just keep coming back to it because I also play a little music. I don't make music anywhere near as good as I draw or I paint, but I analyze the hell out of that and the structures of it, and the idea of an artist going back over their work and their periods of their life at the very end. I don't feel is something that you see quite as much with visual artists, but definitely with or at least with painters. You might see it a little bit more with filmmakers and musicians. That seems to be something that is occurring a little bit more with us now, where we can really look back in that way.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating. Well, it is getting late, so I will let you go on that. We're definitely going to have to talk again and dive more into some of these mysteries for sure. This was a great
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, you're welcome.